Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
Welcome to the University Art Museum. We're here in the process of installing our Master of Fine Arts Thesis exhibition, which will open next Friday, April 29th. And I'm here with Danny Goodwin, who's the chair of the art department, and we're going to give you a little introduction to what the MFA thesis show is, and then have you meet some of the artists who are participating in the exhibition this year. So, Danny, this show means a lot to these students, doesn't it?
It does. It means a lot to us as well. This is the culmination of 2 to 3 years of pretty intensive study for these artists. The thesis exhibition for an MFA is the equivalent of a dissertation in other fields. The MFA being the terminal degree in studio art, so effectively the equivalent of a PhD. So this exhibition that's in progress, we're standing in the installation phase. The show opens next Friday. It's open to the public, and then the reception for the exhibition is May 6th. But this is effectively their thesis, which means that they will come and defend like you would defend a dissertation. So there are 2 days of intensive we call them oral defense, where the student comes and spends an hour talking about their work, defending their work with the entire graduate faculty. And that can be excruciating, but it's also really meaningful. And it's a pretty profound way to end your academic career anyway.
Absolutely. It's also kind of a launching pad in a way for their future careers, isn't
right.
it?
It's not really the end of anything. It's the end of their time hanging out with us.
Right.
But yeah, it really marks the beginning of their career as professional artists, exhibiting in a pro space. And we're really lucky to have the opportunity to work with the museum in this way and to present something like this.
Yeah, we kind of consider it as an opportunity to work with the students in terms of exhibiting their future. We'll be exhibiting in professional spaces and lots of exhibitions to come.
So we're here with Sarah Prixma. Sarah's in her 3rd year in the program. As I said, some students are in for 2, some are in for 3. Sarah's been with us for 3 years, came into the painting program. Sarah, as you can see, works in a variety of media, including 2-dimensional work, drawings, paintings, but she's of late worked into sculptural pieces, reliefs on the wall. So tell us what you did for your thesis show.
I think what I found was that as I began working more in painting, I have an urge to just create things with my hands. That they're very handheld, very tediously created. And what I found was that I was sort of transitioning out of the 2-dimensional realm, so out of painting and drawing, and I began creating with found objects. A lot of these materials are just sort of kicking around, maybe on my studio floor. A lot of the pieces have been like maybe in a basement for however long, or I find them in thrift shops. And I really like the recycling of found materials. So that's interesting to be inspired by a material as you could be in paint, but this is kind of my new direction.
And these came out of drawings, right? I mean, you began working in 2-dimensional media initially, as I recall, quite figurative, and pushed further and further into abstraction. And I don't know if you can capture the similarities between the drawing she's done 2-dimensionally and the drawing that she's done on the wall. But I find that particularly compelling, that you have a similar sensibility with completely different materials and completely different scale, and I mean, they kind of have this interesting agreement.
Yeah, I think that's something that's been developing over the last couple of years. you know, I have this interest in balance and how things are connected, how things move, and it's sort of, you know, that I've had this vision of like this world, or how, you know, this world might interact, you know, with the different parts, and it's just, it's interesting how, you know, in like a three-dimensional realm, I can differently. Mm-hmm. So actually, you know, it becomes more real instead of on the two-dimensional.
So we're here with John Yost, your crazy project for this?
Dealing mostly with photography and video, and ended up switching mostly to video, mainly because I wanted to deal with some narrative structures that I couldn't do in my other filmmaking, which is pure narrative filmmaking and feature filmmaking. And so this gave me the opportunity to try out scenes and try out ideas and build the structure of a narrative, and then just give you the pieces that you needed to have. The structure of the narrative, the backstory of this one is my father almost died about 2 years ago, and in a motorcycle accident. And there was this need and this hope to go back and warn him of it if I could. You can't, and there's no such thing as time travel, but it was an interesting idea to me. So I started to write a story about time-traveling motorcycle and the son who tries to go back and warn his father. And from that, I just kept getting snippets of ideas and thoughts, and would write them down. And for a year, I worked with a crew of theater actors and filmmakers, and we just went in and shot all these, and then came back to the editing room with all these pieces and put together the puzzle as it stands now. And it's shown in many different forms, and many different drives you all the way through is the sound. So no matter where you are, you're hearing the narrative play out, even if you aren't in the main area where all the screens are playing out the narrative. If you're over there looking at the picture frames, or you're looking at the security camera feeds, you're constantly being reminded as to what's happening. So that when you leave that area and you go to the next place, you take a piece of what you heard and then apply that to what you're seeing now. So
And that's achieved with these parabolic speakers that you have placed.
Right. Yeah, they're not
the
finished
space.
yet, but they'll just these parabolic speakers will just be zoned. It's also structured so that if you're upstairs or you're away from it and you look across the room at it, or you're looking down on it, the visual has enough to hold you. You don't constantly need to be reminded of the narrative structure, but you could be you can get something out of it visually, auditorially, and spatially. Does that make sense?
Sure, makes sense to me, but
Makes sense to me too.
but I'm a freak.
So
well, you're really obsessed or interested, maybe obsessed isn't the right word, with I guess like Einsteinian notions of time and multiple overlapping scenarios, and can you talk about like how that works in this sort of nonlinear video narrative structure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and television shows like X-Files and Fringe, and that Hollywood kind of idea of time travel, and so I kind of like mixing a lot of those Hollywood elements, but then on the other side, I'm very interested in things. I was telling Janet the other day of a thing called quantum suicide and quantum mechanics, and the idea of multiple universes, and it's all very interesting. Whether or not it's real, it's always very interesting. Brian Greene is an author who talks about it quite a bit, and try to read up on him. And it's interesting moments too, how time can shift moments to be forever, or to a mosquito, life may seem forever, but for us it's a day. For us, 100 years is a lifetime. For the planet, that's nothing. So time is kind of all perceptual and relative, which is very interesting to me as an artist and as a human being. So, like as I said before, there's several different areas of this work. You have different stations or different places you can go, and different levels of interaction. So our 3-screen is more of the narrative nutrient portraits, and they're constantly changing and evolving, and their emotions and their facial expressions, almost to entice you to interact with them. At the same time, they don't particularly care if you interact with them or not. It's kind of a falsity. You walk up to them, they seem to be interacting with you for a second, and then you realize that they're not at all. And then there's a third station that the characters don't even look at you, their back is to you. Security camera footage of the father and son at different times building the motorcycle at different times. So again, 3 levels of interaction, and this would be the one where you're asked to interact more, I think. Does that make sense? So even though you have all three of these interactions in the gallery setting, there's also this using the language of the space and installation. The short film is using the same materials, but in a short film or film narrative language with a structure and a timeline. So you can get the film at www.theuniversalfilmproject.com. Click on the download button, and it's about a 600 meg file, big file, HD, for free, and you can watch it. But I think we're going to look at some of the clips right now.
Then why is he helping me?
But he's fine now.
Even on something he
doesn't
knows
want you
will
getting
never
your hopes
work?
up. You know why? Because he knows it doesn't work. He's your dad.
What's
He'd
the
help you
point
with
of
anything.
doing anything if hope doesn't exist? All right.
Wait, no helmet? Jesus Christ.
If I could have it back, all of the time that we wasted.
This is Yamine Chowdhury. She's in her third year, another third-year student. Came in so-called combined media, so is a place for people who are working in emerging media and media that crosses the various disciplinary boundaries. So Yamine is one of our combined media students. Do you want to talk about what you are doing here?
Yeah, so I'm in the process of installing a documentary-style 2-channel video that's called Meeting with Strangers. And it's my most recent project, which involves me having conversations with a girl, a homesick Pakistani girl who is an expatriate in this country, and she moved here about 3 years ago. And she's talking about her experience of missing home, and an American soldier, a US military, a Navy man, in fact, and the two of them are talking about their idea of home and belonging and what it means to be American or what it means to be Pakistani. And it's a conversation that I've had with myself since I'm of a binational status of what I am and where I belong, and sort of going back and forth between those two is sort of my way of figuring out my place in this country. And it's been kind of a fun experimental art-making experience.
So can you talk a little bit about the structure of this video? I know you also work in installation and in photography, and we'll see a little bit of that. But talk about how this video works, these videos.
Okay, so as I said, it's a 2-channel video piece, and the two worlds that I'm exploring, one of the girl, Mohiba, and the second one of the soldier, are on 2 separate screens, and they're set off at about a roughly 40-degree angle to each other, so it's roughly, set up like this, and the viewer comes and stands in between these 2 screens, and so sort of a metaphor for being in between these 2 worlds, and as well, and setting up a scale and setting up the location of where you stand and view it. So when you go downstairs, you'll see a photograph that I've made, how you sort of feel in relationship to it. And now you'll see an excerpt from Meeting with Strangers.
I want to be Pakistani.
But can you be Pakistani and American?
वापस जाने का दिल चाहता है. इनफैक्ट मैं पाकिस्तानी भी नहीं हूँ.
तुम क्या हो क्या?
I told you मैं अभी मैं पैदा हुई हूँ. वो मुझे एक्सेप्ट भी नहीं करते, नेशनलिटी भी नहीं देते.
See, that's so sad. हम लोग पता नहीं कहाँ अपने आप को ठूसने की कोशिश करते हैं, but think.
लेकिन पाकिस्तान is the best place, I think.
You kidding me? वहाँ दंगा फसाद, लोग रोज मरते हैं. Why do you think it's the best place? पागल लड़की.
कौन सी ऐसी अपॉर्चुनिटी है जो यहाँ पे है और जो दूसरी लैंड्स में नहीं है? मुझे नहीं समझ आती कि लोग क्यों ऐसा कहते हैं कि ऐसा क्या है यहाँ पे. मुझे तो नहीं लगता. I was way more satisfied and safe and cool and calm in my own country, in my own ways than here. I still wanna go back.
If you have, except that we have an extra boy, this is unusual.
4 boys. We need a little bit more closing the gap there. Okay.
Hands, join hands with your partner, and we're going to start with that inside foot, heel and toe. We'll have a 4-beat introduction of music, which is the way we usually do this. 4 beats. Inside foot, heel and toe, slide 4 steps in. Outside foot, heel, toe, slide back. Here comes the clapping part. Right, left, go. Knees, bow to your partner, pass right shoulders. On to the next, inside foot, heel and toe, slide towards the middle. Outside foot, heel and toe, back to place. Right, left, go. Knees, bow to his partner, pass right shoulders. On to the next, inside foot. Very good.
was a brief introduction to this year's Master of Fine Arts Thesis exhibition at the University at Albany Art Museum. We got to meet some of the artists in the exhibition and see some of the artwork, but we really hope that you'll come and join us and see the exhibition for yourself. It opens April 29th and will be on view through May 15th. Our opening reception will be on May 6th from 5 to 7 p.m. and if you can make it that evening, you'll get to meet all the artists in the show.
Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome, Dan.